These are the supplies that you'll need to make the accordion pouch. You will need outside fabric, like a good side. I patched up some of my woven fabric for this. You will also need a lining fabric and a piece of low loft batting. These are all size 7 inches by 14 inches. For the pocket, I'm using just a cotton muslin, and the size of it is 7 inches by 41 inches. So this is one long piece that's 41 inches. And then you might need some interfacing, and my interfacing isn't very wide, so I cut 2 pieces to equal the length of the fabric piece. So these both are about 20 inches long, and this is 3.5 inches tall. And I don't have a double-sided interfacing. I just have a single-sided, which I think is fine for me because I just want to give this pocket a little bit more weight. But if you have a double-sided interfacing, that would be ideal. And this is for the closure. I'm just using a piece of leather that's about 1/4 inch by 26 inches long. You can also use a piece of fabric or an elastic. There's a lot of different ways you can use, a lot of different things you can use for the closure, but I'm going to be using this leather cord. You could do this project by hand if you don't have a sewing machine, but I'm going to do this with a sewing machine just for speed. You have the good side, the outside of your fabric, the lining, and then the batting. And the way I layer them together is I start with the batting piece, and then I place the outside fabric on top of the batting. So this is the back side. And then I place the lining on top. I'm going to sew it all the way around the perimeter using 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to leave an opening on this one side, I would say about 2 to 3 inches. That way I could turn it good sides out. At this point, when you're sewing around the perimeter of the piece, you can add the closure. If it's a fabric closure, elastic, it doesn't really matter. If you want to include it, what I would do is put the closure at the center on the short side and make sure this is the top part of the pouch, and you're going to sew that into the perimeter. But I think I'm going to sew this by hand, so I'm going to leave it out for now, and I'm going to just sew around the edge here, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. Here it is, all sewn around the perimeter with an opening right here. When you are sewing this on a sewing machine, make sure that the top part of the piece is the lining and not the batting. Make sure the batting is at the bottom, because if you're sewing it like this with the batting on top, it's gonna kind of pull on each other, and it's not very good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut the corners away and then turn it good sides out. I'm pushing out the corners so that it'll sit better. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run a top stitch along the edge. Here's what it looks like. I top stitch all around the edge of the piece. The next step is to take the iron-on interfacing and place it at the half point, and you want to leave a little bit of space there. I would say like ½ inch. And then once you've ironed this on, you're going to fold this down like this. I ironed the interfacing on here, and it gives the body that I want with this muslin. So I definitely would suggest that you do interfacing. It'll give it a lot more body and a little stiffness. The ends I sewed together, and then I pressed it with the seams flat, just so that it's nice on that side. Fold it so that the good sides are on either side. And if you're using double-faced interfacing, then this would be the point where you would press it so that both sides are down. But I think it'll still be okay. So you could see that it's like a one continuous sort of tube-like thing, and then one side you have the folded edge, and then the other side you have the raw edge. Once it's all folded over like this with the interfacing on the inside, the part where the seam that you've sewn, you want to fold it right at that point there, and you want to measure about 5 inches, and you can either use a water-soluble pen to draw a line here, and that would be a sewn line, or you could just take a pin and just sort of mark it there. And then you're going to slide it down and measure it another 5 inches. I'll fix that later when I sew. It's a little crooked. And then another 5, and that should be the last one. So there's going to be 3 points that you will be sewing. And then the last section should be 5. Yeah, it's roughly 5. Okay, so the next step is to sew along here, and that's going to give you your different little compartments on the accordion. So here's the line sewn, and this is what you kind of create as these little pockets. And then what you do is you just slide it so that the center seams line up like this, and that's what it looks like. And if you want to, you could press the edges here, or if you want, you could sew along the edge if you want more of like a rigid look. So yeah, that's what it looks like. We're getting to the final steps of creating this accordion pouch. What I did was I went ahead and I sewed the bottom, and the way I did it was I just put it on the sewing machine and I just sewed it along there, and then I just stopped there, and then I went to the other side and I started here. I think if you can get the majority of it sewn, it will help you with your items. And the reason why I did that was because I just thought that it was too thick to sew through the whole thing here. What I'm going to do now is you're going to place it with the folded side, not the raw edge side, against the inside part here of the pouch. And you want to kind of center this, and I would leave about maybe ½ an inch gap here. And what you want to do is you want to just sew along the edge here about 2 inches. So I'm going to take my pins and just sort of pin it down. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold this up like this and just make sure it's nice and snug. And then you're going to also sew along this side here. So I'm going to pin this down. That way when it opens up, you have this sort of accordion effect. What I'm going to do here on the edges, the bottom, the folded edge, is I'm going to just sew by hand, just, I would say, about a little bit more than ½ inch right there and right there. The reason why I want to sew a little bit along this edge here is so that when you're looking at the sides here, you don't see all this sort of frayed raw edge at the bottom. And then I'm going to attach my closure, and then I'm done. I'm going to go and sew this on the sewing machine, this spot here and this spot, and then I'll show you how I sew the sides. I'm going to take this indigo pearl cotton thread, and I'm going to use that to stitch up the side. And I'm going to do it, I think, about 1.5 inches coming up from the top. So I'm going to stitch it right there. And I'm going to start by coming through the top layer like this. And then I'm going to just turn it to its side. And then just kind of go through all the layers. And just do kind of like a whip stitch or so. I guess in theory you could stitch along here, but I'm going to see how it looks just in this one spot. And then I think that's strong enough. And then I'm going to just put the needle through this loop, pull it to kind of create a knot, and do a second one. And then I'm going to just bury the tail in the fabric here. Okay. So that's what it looks like. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Here's what the sewn sides look like. So when you go to open it, it just kind of keeps that bottom part intact. That way it doesn't feel like everything's, you know, falling out or anything like that. It just gives it a little bit of, I don't know, it gives it a nice detail. Anyways, the next step, or the final step, is to add the strap. And I punched 2 little tiny holes there. What I'm going to do now is stitch that on using that same pearl cotton thread. So there you have it. Here is our finished pouch. I'm going to use this as a holder for my notions and my small tools and things like that. But this would also work really well if you're traveling for your jewelry. You can put, you know, different sort of things inside each of the pockets, or you can use this as a wallet. I might later sew a piece of felt along here so I can put all of my needles on there. But yeah, it's just like a cute little sort of accordion holder. You could keep things in each of the different compartments, you know, like scissors, little clips, things like that. And then they're all kind of separated, keep you all kind of organized. And then, you know, because I stitched it just at the bottom here, it helps it to kind of stay open a little bit better. And then just fold this over. And to close it, I just wrap this leather around like this. And then I just tuck the end inside. And sometimes if you want a little bit more security, I do another one with a loop, and then this kind of goes through the loop. And I like these type of closures because it helps to it to be expandable in case, you know, I have more things in the pouch, or if I have less things, this will kind of expand with the pouch. But if you feel like you want to add snaps or buttons, any type of closure will work. I really hope you enjoy that tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.